In this video, I'm going to share with you something called deeper, not more. And this is a concept, a way of thinking, which has completely changed my life. What it's going to do for you is it's going to allow you to strip down complexity, bring in simplicity, and create extraordinary results in life and in business by virtue of you coming into alignment with what is actually important, by virtue of you making the invisible true causes of your problems and to actually make them visible, to bring them to the surface. Because in life, the things that actually make the biggest differences, the biggest bang for your buck, the biggest moves, the biggest leverage are usually invisible. They're not usually the things on the surface that we think are responsible for the cause and effect in our lives. And as I explain this more and more, this is going to make a lot more sense. This is especially for you if you are tired of hustling and grinding and you really want more results, but you're realizing the more you try to create more, the less you actually have. It's kind of a paradox. It is counterintuitive, and it's just the way things work. And if you look at how our world operates, there's so much emphasis on people going out there and trying to do more and hustle and create and produce and produce. But if you're really honest with yourself and you look at how much effort you're putting out into creating stuff and how much actually comes back, and is it really actually making a difference in your life? More often than not, it actually isn't. And there's a deeper order inside of the matrix of our thinking that very often goes completely overlooked and it keeps us spinning our wheels and going in circles. And it's kind of like if somebody tells you there's some soil here and they tell you, you know what, I buried some treasure in that soil. I want you to dig into it and get it and you'll be wealthy. And you go, great, this is awesome. And you start digging in that soil and you find some peanuts. And you go, wow, peanuts. Okay, I found the treasure, I guess. I guess I'll just sell these peanuts and I'll be wealthy. And you go creating a life for yourself as a peanut person. And it goes okay. But then along comes someone very, very wealthy, and they're covered in jewels and diamonds. And you walk over to them and you ask them, how did you find all these jewels and diamonds? And they say, well, it was easy. I was walking along one day and I saw some soil and someone told me there's treasure in there. And I dug and I found peanuts. And then I threw those peanuts out because I'm sure they were just in the way. And I dug deeper and I found diamonds and jewels and gold. How would you feel in that conversation as the peanut person? Probably a little bit silly, right? But this is exactly what is happening in our mentality, in our way of thinking. Most of humanity doesn't really know how to think deep about problems and the real issues in our lives. And I'll tell you how I discovered it. It was a time when I wasn't really creating a lot of results in my life. Nothing was moving, despite the fact that I was putting a lot of attention into doing and trying to find more information and more solutions and more motivation and more books and more courses and more, trying to get more by more. And it occurred to me at one point that none of this is working. I'm not really getting anywhere. And I asked myself the question, what if the answer actually wasn't more, but going deeper into what I already have that's actually working? So that one book that I read that moved something in me, that opened up ideas and inspiration, I went back to it and I read it again. And the second time I read it, things just clicked even deeper. And things that I thought I knew turned out that I didn't really fully know them. There was a deeper layer of understanding underneath that I didn't get before. And so I applied it and things got better. And then I thought, what do I do now? And I thought, okay, well, how about I just read that same book again? And I read it again and again and again and again. This is kind of what I do with every single book I read right now. I don't just read it once. The first time is like the first date. I realized that you got to read something at least 5-10 times before it actually sets root into your life on a deep, deep level and actually starts making a difference. So all this time I was going around there wailing and flapping my arms and trying to make a difference. And the answer just was deeper and not more. And if you look at this, this is true in peak performance all around the world in so many cases. If you look at the top performing athletes and you ask them how they got so amazing, everybody sees the performance, everybody sees them doing their thing at their best when they're in the game. But the best athletes, their secret is deeper. They're busy practicing every single day, and they come back the next day and they practice the next day and they practice. And they're usually practicing the fundamentals in basketball. That is free throws and passing and shooting the net, not complex tactics and strategies. It's just the basics. And it's even more fundamental than that. If you really speak to top performing athletes in the realm of weightlifting or sports, whatever it is, they usually tell you that you got to make sure you sleep. You got to make sure you sleep and stay focused. It's very basic. It's not very sexy. It's not very like, wow, like the secret of life, but it actually is. And we as human beings tend to overlook this so easily, especially in our day and age, because we are so brainwashed in a society that keeps us chasing the peanuts. And usually there's a bunch of people who have dug and they found the peanuts and they go, peanuts, wow. And entire movements build around peanuts. And because everyone's chasing the peanuts, it just seems like the thing you have to do. And so you go out there and chase peanuts. So for example, in the weightlifting industry or the muscle building industry, fitness industry, there's a lot of these peanut movements where young men are just like looking on YouTube and there's all these people talking about lifting this way and lifting that way. And you got to get this supplement and that supplement and dial this thing in. And really, when you talk to the guys who are really doing it, they're just like, yeah, you got to make sure to just sleep and eat right. And it's very basic and just do that, but it doesn't sell very well. Diamonds are actually way, way deeper, and digging for that depth isn't very sexy, but it's actually where the results actually come in your life. So take a moment in this video, pause this even for a moment. And the question to ask yourself before we go deeper into this, and it goes way deeper, there's more diamonds, is where in your life do you feel like you're doing a lot and there really isn't a lot coming back? And where in your life you feel like you're just like hitting your head against the wall, nothing's really coming back, and you're just like go, 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 and you're convincing yourself that you need to try harder, that you need to do more and try harder, and that you don't know enough and you're not ready or whatever. And that's usually a hint that this is an area where you're being a peanut person and there's an opportunity to go and dig for diamonds. So that's basically an intro to this, but it goes a lot deeper. What I'm going to share with you right now is a way of thinking that will allow you to, like I said, strip down complexity and bring in simplicity so you can create extraordinary results in your life and find the real answers to the real questions that you need to ask in order to get amazing results in your life. Once you've mastered just the basics of like, what if it's deeper, not more, you can actually bring this into your way of thinking, into a multi-dimensional way of thinking. And this is absolutely gold that has changed my life. What I learned is that most of the time, all the complexity we create in our lives arises for this reason. And this goes for life, it goes for business, it goes for every aspect of your existence. Usually there is some kind of negative, uncomfortable feeling deep in our psyche, deep in our body. And because we're not aware of deeper and not more, and we're conditioned that the solution's always more, and we're not really taught about this, what we do is we create layers of complexity on top of this feeling in an attempt to solve the solution. But it doesn't really solve anything, and we just create more and more complexity. And I'll give you a couple examples of how this works and how to actually use this. So the first example is actually one that's very personal. At one point, I was very stuck with a lot of complexity in my life around making videos for YouTube. And my biggest problem was that I wasn't consistent enough. I really wanted to make videos consistently, but no matter what I did, no matter how much effort I put in, it just wasn't happening. I'd make a video and then weeks would go by, nothing else would happen. There'd be distractions, something would happen, or I just wouldn't be motivated. I'd be lost and confused, and it wouldn't happen. And then I decided, okay, the solution must be discipline. Or I need a better system. Or I need a calendar. Like systems upon systems I created, and it's going to be like this. No, I need different camera equipment. No, surely the answer is I must have different lights. I need the right lighting, so I'm inspired. Tell you, I tried it all. Nothing worked, and there was just layers and layers of complexity in this area of my life. And then I started to apply this concept, which I'm about to share with you, and I began to dig deeper. And the way you dig deeper is you start asking a series of questions around why? Why do I need lights? Well, because I think the lights will make me motivated or make me feel better about myself, so then I feel more professional. Okay, well, why do I not feel professional? And I don't know. It's just this feeling in my body like I'm not enough. Okay, well, why do I feel like I'm not enough? Well, because I'm not making stuff consistency, and I don't know, because, well, why am I not making stuff consistently? I couldn't find an answer. It was just this feeling inside of me, and before I knew it, I just kind of sat with this, and I got some help, some reflection based on this pattern, and it came down to it. The real reason why this was happening was because I felt so insecure about my deepest message. And at night, when it was time to go to sleep, usually I would watch videos of other YouTubers and thought leaders that I admired to try to get inspiration or look how they were doing things. But what that was actually doing was creating and seeding a lot of doubt in my mind and kind of exasperating this feeling. And so instead of being in my own energy field and guarding it, I was kind of just completely dispersed. There was no boundaries around my energy field. And what that was doing to my mind was it was confusing me, creating doubt, creating shame. And I wasn't connected to myself, to my deep self, to my ideas, what I really wanted to share with the world. And the inspiration wasn't there the next morning. And so what I decided to do, is instead of trying to focus on trying to do more, I decided to go deeper into myself and eliminate that habit of looking at other people's videos and comparing myself to others and judging myself. And as soon as I did that, as soon as I just anchored myself into my own being, that's when the ideas started to flow. That's when the excitement started to come back and come alive. And I noticed this went even deeper. Even if I went out that evening before and I spent some time with friends and had conversations about random stuff, it would also kind of mess with my head. And I learned a lot about myself in that process, that who I was actually very sensitive and very entrainable energetically, and that I love people and connection, but there's this balance in my life where if I spend too much time around certain people, and it just kind of messes up my creativity. And I really love being focused 5 days a week and not really bringing other people into my energy field. I just need to be alone, and that's when really amazing stuff happens, and I create epic stuff. It's so fulfilling. And so as you see, it had nothing to do with any of these things. It was nothing to do with more. It was something completely seemingly unrelated. It was invisible, but I have to go deeper to actually find the solution to the problem. And this is the same case for so many issues in your life. But the main thing you got to keep in mind is there's always some kind of root discomfort deep in our psyche. And because we're unwilling to feel it, we invent layers and layers and layers of complexity. And this is so true for the world of business. You wouldn't believe how many people I've talked to that have insane ideas of why things aren't working out and confusion. And when we get down to what's really at the core, it's something so simple. And it's usually I'm just so ashamed to go out there and show people that I have something amazing to offer, So I got to create all this other stuff. Maybe I need a million membership sites, or I need to redo my branding, or I need to buy a new coaching program to show me what to do, or maybe I don't know enough, or maybe I need to completely change this or that, and it's usually just like, no, just be with yourself, get sleep, eat good food, and share yourself. Another recent example, this is actually also from a YouTuber friend of mine who is a vocal coach. And he had a very successful business, still does, and his students love him. He's amazing at what he does. And he gets most of his clients from YouTube. And one of his clients said, man, you're so amazing. You should really go out there more. You know what's really going viral on YouTube? It is these reaction videos where you do a reaction to something and it goes so viral. And he thought, no, I'm not doing that. That's stupid. But they really kind of just pushed him to do it. Like, you got to try it. He thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And he started creating all this complexity and making these videos and spending time doing them. And all of a sudden what happened is they actually went super viral. He got tens of thousands of views on his YouTube channel, hundreds of thousands, sorry, and tens of thousands of subscribers. And he was like, wow, this is really taking off. But then all of a sudden he noticed that his business was going down. He wasn't making any money at all. And nobody was buying. And he came to the conclusion that he had all this attention, but it was just the wrong people. It was people who were watching him for entertainment, not because they wanted to get vocal lessons from him. And so as soon as he went deeper and realized, oh, that's the problem in my business, then he eliminated all that stuff and he got down to the root discomfort, which was there, which was like, maybe I'm missing out on something. Maybe my students are right, you know. And then he realized, okay, I just fell into this. I just fell into this discomfort. I bought into this lie, this delusion. It's time to let it go. And how many times in your life have you bought into some delusion where you think there's power outside of you, something you're missing out on, something great, something that you don't know, and you invest time and money into it, and because it's not really deeply aligned with you, it just doesn't work out, right? It just doesn't work. And man, there's so many people out there in the world who are in that exact same place. We have just layers and layers and layers of complexity in our lives and our families and our business and our health life, all based on assumptions. And really, when you investigate these assumptions, they all just kind of start falling like a house of cards. And when you get down to the bottom, that's where the diamonds are. And life is really very simple. Life in business is very simple. It's we who make it complicated. We usually know what to do. Like, you're in place A and you need to go to place B, and you know what to do. But guess what? There's some discomfort in the way. There's some shame. There's some pain. There's maybe some trauma. There's some resistance, and it feels really uncomfortable. And rather than just facing the resistance and getting curious about it and solving the resistance, we create those layers of complexity from A to B. And we think, oh, there's got to be all these layers. And in reality, that's just not so. Those layers are our imagination. And the art of deeper, not more, is to penetrate those layers to get down to what actually matters. What actually matters in life. And what you'll find that happens when you do that is, like, the more you go into more, if you notice in your life, the more complex things become, the more stuff there is, the more overwhelm there is, the more disconnection. Sorry for my writing. I'm just writing really fast here. The more disconnection there is, right? And the deeper you go into deeper, what you find is that you kind of get the opposite of that. Things are simpler, right? Like in the case of my friend's example, he's like, I'm just going to keep doing what I was doing. I was working. Like, things just get simpler. There's less stuff. And here's really the cool thing. There's more connection, and you'll find that you don't just solve the problem you thought was the problem. You solve the deeper problem, and you solve simultaneously, like, many other problems. It's like chopping off three heads of a three-headed dragon versus just one, and all of a sudden the dragon's gone. And I'll give you an example again from my personal life. So recently I had a problem where I needed to find a math tutor for my daughter. I have a 16-year-old daughter who I love very much, and she wanted to learn math because she's been homeschooled and unschooled all her life, and she wanted to take her math to another level. And I thought, oh man, where am I going to find the right tutor? And I'm so busy right now. I don't want to just find the wrong person. And I got so much stuff to do and blah, 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 layers and layers of complexity about this thing. And, what if it costs a lot of money and then she doesn't like it and, just goes nowhere and blah, blah, blah. And then I kind of went, okay, wait a minute. Let me just disconnect from this. What's the real issue? What's the actual discomfort? And really the discomfort I was having was, I really don't feel like a good parent lately. I haven't seen my daughter very much. I've been traveling a lot lately, and we've always been close, but it's been more challenging as she's been a teenager. She's doing her own thing, individuating. We haven't spent a lot of time together. And that was really the feeling that was creating the discomfort. It wasn't the tutor thing. And I thought, why don't I just tutor her myself? And as soon as I had this idea, it was like, of course, it would be so fun. Like, I love math, and we get to spend time together. We'll goof off, we'll connect, and she'll learn math and we'll solve both problems. So I proposed that idea. She was all for it. And we've been math buddies for the past 2 months. And it's been fun. And like the past couple lessons, we just hang out for a bit and talk about life. And all of a sudden I'm realizing I'm having an influence on her in other areas, and just showing her how to show up for herself. And I'm also becoming better at teaching math. I don't know if I need that skill, but it feels good to teach my child and to connect. It's beautiful. And funny enough, before I was like, oh, I don't have time and blah, blah, blah. But as soon as I connected to what I truly wanted, all of a sudden, the simplicity, the connection came up, right? And all these layers just disappeared, and the real solution came. And again, it solved multiple problems at the same time and created more simplicity, connection, ease. We don't need another tutor or person in our lives, or at least for this right now, maybe in the future. So that happened. And if you look at in our day and age, someone who's very masterful at this craft is Elon Musk. Now, you can think of him whatever you like, but in engineering, he's a brilliant engineer. And he takes this to the utter deepest extent. He has a process for engineering that he takes his engineers through, that when they bring a problem to him, he is adamant. He has ingrained it into his people that probably the problem is that the thing that you're bringing to me probably doesn't even have to exist. You can just not do it. You can just completely erase it, and let's see if it works. Like, that's their first step. Let's remove the part, erase it, and see if we even need it at all. And this is kind of the clue of how to practically implement this into your life. And I'm going to share that with you right now. Like, what are the practical steps to doing this? Because this all sounds very exciting, right? Well, the first step is to just stop. Just stop, right? And if you remember the peanut story, stop and assume that you are a peanut person. Just assume that whatever you're doing is not working because you're in the peanut layer. Just assume that. Okay? And it takes sometimes a lot of courage. Sometimes it's a little hard, especially if you've been doing the peanut thing for a while and you're really identified with it, and you're really identified with the massive layers of complexity in a specific area. And you have your identity enmeshed into it. Like, sometimes we build enormously complex lives. Sometimes we hire multitudes of people and we realize they're not necessary. Like, you might have to go that far. But the more courage you have here, the deeper the solution will come out. And you got to stop everything and bring your attention back to yourself. This means stop scrolling, stop looking for distractions. Again, this is all about coming deeper into yourself to find what's really going on. What is the real problem underneath all this? Is it really what I think it is? Maybe you need to take a retreat for a couple of days by yourself and just walk on the beach and apply this process. And I promise you, if you do, it will be worth its weight in gold. All right. The second thing that you need to do is you need to adopt the attitude of getting curious. I hope I spelled curious right there. And get really curious. You can't do this. You can't muscle your way through this. You can't be like, okay, I'm going to go deeper, really solve this. You have to be relaxed and get curious and open your mind, because you're not going to see this from a contracted place. Remember, Einstein said this: you cannot solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created it. The level of consciousness that created the issue is usually one that wanted to avoid that charge deep inside. And in order to solve that, we have to be willing to go deep. We have to be curious about ourselves, right? So like if you get into something like, wow, I just really feel insecure. I wonder why I feel insecure. And that itself, it might be the gold. And it might reveal that, like, wow, I have something I haven't dealt with. And the solution to your biggest problem might just be to go and deal with that emotion, to feel it deeply, and maybe seek some help and talk to a friend about it. And that will dissolve the whole thing. But the way we get there is through the third step. And this is the most important one. And it is the question, why? Why? Why, Daddy? Why? You want to be like a 3-year-old, like an inquisitive 3 or 4-year-old, and ask why. And if you ever had small children, you know what I'm talking about. It's that stage when you're like, put on your shoes, honey, we're going to the store. Why? Because we need to get some food. Why? Because if we run out of food, that's not good. Why? Because we'll get hungry. Why? Well, because humans have stomachs, and we got to put metabolism in there, and we're metabolic creatures, and if we don't metabolize stuff, then we lose fat, and eventually you might even die. But why? Because reality is the way it is, and we live these finite lives. You can get down deeply philosophical in the end. In the end, you're just like, because that's just how it works. But you have to become this really inquisitive 3-year-old around every single layer of issue. And it's kind of painstaking, but man, is it so worth it. So the way this works, and I kind of showed it already before, is you find yourself like in some top layer, right? We're in the peanut layer. Let's pretend you're Joe and you run a very big company and you're very stressed, right? And that's like the problem, and sales aren't really working out the way they are. And so you're doing all these things to try to train up all your salespeople and to get them pushing harder and whatever it is. And you start applying this. You go, okay, why am I doing this? And you go, well, because the business isn't working so well. And well, why is it not working well? Well, because that strategy I learned from that course that I went to in that seminar, it just, like, it never really settled in. Maybe I'm not good enough. Or like, okay, well, why did I go to that seminar? And it was like, well, the divorce was very stressful, and I just needed like some focus and to network, and I thought this would work for me. And you go, okay, so the divorce was really stressed. Am I still feeling the stress of the divorce? Like why did the divorce happen, right? And you go deeper and deeper, and in the end, you might just like find like a ball of anxiety. Like, I really just don't feel well. I don't feel enough. I feel like I need to overcompensate for something. Okay, so like all this was built up because I needed to overcompensate for something. Like, what if my business could be way simpler than this? Sometimes this alone just deflates the whole balloon. And you realize that maybe you missed an opportunity. Like what if I just needed to relax and chill out and step more into myself, and then maybe just like focus on those 2 salespeople that were working really well, and just like build a deeper connection with them and talk to them. Maybe I just need to like talk to my clients. Like, these are very rudimentary examples, and it sounds simple and maybe oversimplified, but it seems to always be the case when you get down to the bottom of it, that it rarely ever is what you thought it was. It's something so much more deeper, so much more intrinsic to the whole system. And you don't need these layers of complexity. And then the 4th step in this is, once you do this deep enough and you get the deeper answers, you have to be willing to actually implement this. and sometimes tear down these levels of complexity and bring this ease into your life. And the final thing, an example I'll share with you here, is that in order to really apply this successfully, you got to think of yourself as a rebel, because this is an act of sacred rebellion inside of yourself. And rebellion is actually built on alignment, and alignment is built on rebellion. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. All of society and the whole world is busy doing this. They're busy doing more and more and more. And these programs are deeply instilled inside of our psyche, in our bodies, this deep contraction, this deep push for more out there. Surely you got to try harder and put more effort into things and just go, go, go. And it becomes an identity. But the one who embraces the identity of the sacred rebel, the one who stops in the middle of that storm and says, no, there's got to be an easier way. I choose something higher for my life, is the one that goes on the path of deeper and not more. And recently I was coaching a friend who was going through something very difficult. He lost his job, and he was a programmer, and he really needed to find another job. And just like most people, he was in this pace of more and more and more and putting out resumes, and he was getting more and more stressed because nothing was really working. And he was, the fear of running out of money was starting to reach to him, and the thought of going home and living with his parents. And it was just so much. And he felt so down on himself, you know? And so using this framework, I sat with him and I just like walked him through it and told him stories from my life and just had him get in touch with that feeling and rebel against this program. And I asked him, like, what do you really want to do, man? And he's like, well, I really just want to spend a week hiking, but I can't because I got to do this stuff. And we got curious, right? Like, why can't you? Like, let's go deeper. And it took him a while to get it. But just like in all these examples, he finally got down to the bottom and he realized it was all just in his body. And he rebelled against that program and just went out there and went hiking for a week and enjoys his life. And actually what ended up happening is he landed an amazing job, which paid him a good deal of money. He was able to stay living where he wanted to live in Ecuador. And the job even came with awesome perks, and he was super happy in the end. And all because, like so many people who use this, he embraced the sacred rebel. He rebelled against this program that told him, you know, you're not enough. You got to push and you got to hustle. And whenever I get into these situations, this is always the feeling that's kind of underneath this in my life of like, all right, this is the program, but I'm going to choose something higher. And I'm going to embrace being that sacred rebel. This is not about being lazy. This is about being profoundly deep. And in life and in this day and age, the people who bring the most value into this world and the most valued skill over the next many, many years that AI even cannot replace will be this skill. Everything I just showed you here, the ability to think deeper and go deeper, not more. I hope you enjoyed this video and got tremendous value out of it. If you did, please subscribe down below. And if you would love assistance in taking this and implementing it into your life and shifting yourself into a timeline where you're going deep and you're creating incredible results in your life to doing less and being more connected, then check out the link down below this video to a new program I'm releasing called Timeline Shifting. It's where you get to work with me personally and get my assistance in helping you shift into the optimum timeline in your life, the life where you're connected deeply to yourself, expressing your deepest truth, your gift in this world, and being rewarded for it handsomely. That link is down below in this video, and I'll see you next time.